Call to order the November 2021 legislative session of Media Borough Council. Please rise, stand, and join me in the pledge of allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for joining us this evening. It's been a lovely day. I think we're going to make up for it this evening, but we'll see. The weather, I understand, is going to change. A couple of items before we begin to dive into our agenda. First of all, a thank you and a nod of appreciation to everyone who stood for election and everyone who helped organize our elections earlier this month. Locally, we have all four persons who were elected to Media Borough Council. Our president in this room. We have Kevin Boyer to my left. Pain has no memory. And directly in front of me we have Liz Romaine, Mark Pakoff, and Joy Washington. And we have Mayor McMahon. Congratulations to all of you. Hope to see you soon at the table. So, congratulations. As always, a reminder or an encouragement, please, if you haven't been vaccinated already, please consider getting vaccinated. For most of us, it costs nothing. For those who are eligible for a booster shot, get your booster shot. And for those kids who are now eligible, roll up your sleeve and get a shot. It's not just for you, it's for all of us. It is my duty to announce that at the end of our last meeting a couple weeks ago, we met in executive session. We discussed a couple matters involving litigation and a personnel matter. Before we get to public comment and privilege of the floor, we have four sets of meeting minutes, 2 sets of workshop meeting minutes, and 2 sets of council meeting minutes for September and October of this year. Do I hear a motion to approve the workshop meeting minutes for September 2021 as submitted?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the workshop meeting minutes for September 2021, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously. And we also had council meeting minutes for a council meeting of September. Do I hear a motion to approve those as submitted?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second. Any discussion? Hearing no call for discussion, all those in favor of approving the council meeting minutes for September 2021, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously. We'll move on to October. Do I hear a motion to approve the October 2021 workshop meeting minutes
So moved.
as submitted? Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second. Any discussion? Hearing no call for discussion, all those in favor of approving the October 2021 workshop meeting minutes as submitted, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously. Last but not least, we have the council meeting minutes of this past month. Do I hear a motion to approve those as submitted?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approving the council meeting minutes for October 2021 as submitted, please say aye.
Yes.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously. Well, those are our housekeeping matters, at least for the moment. We now have public comment and privilege of the floor. As always, we have public comment and privilege of the floor at the beginning of our meeting as well as at the end of our meeting. There are 2 ways that you may participate in public comment and privilege of the floor. One is by email, and the email address is comments@mediaborough.com. I'll repeat that, comments@mediaborough.com. Or, if you're present, come up to the microphone, tell us your name, where you live, what's on your mind. If you are going to comment by way of email, you must tell us your name and where you live. Otherwise, we cannot read your comment or your question. First, we'll turn to Karen Rapino. Karen, do we have any comments or questions by way of email?
We have none.
Thank you. Is there anybody here tonight who wishes to address council at this time? Please come to the microphone. Again, tell us your name, where you live, and what's on your mind. Yes, please, come to the microphone.
Good evening, thank you. Tom Acarola, 807 North Olive Street resident. My comment or question, I recently learned that the Ridge Road Stormwater project has been put on hold. And as you probably know, speeding is a significant issue on the 800 block of North Olive. That stormwater project was kind of incorporated with the traffic calming measures for that stretch of road. And I was curious as to the process of, we're very interested in addressing the speeding on the road in light of the hold on the stormwater project. And I was curious as a process of getting on the agenda to re-discuss that or bring that back up to council.
Sure. One thing that you certainly can do is attend the Public Safety Committee meetings, which is where those matters typically come up, and you have the opportunity to address the Chief of Police, and I think oftentimes our engineer is present. Lisa, you are chair of the Public Safety Committee meeting. Would you mind telling Mr. Acarola?
Yes, thank you.
When and where for the meetings?
We meet on the third Thursdays of each month. However, not this month, because that'll be Thanksgiving.
So December will be the next?
No, we're actually meeting the Wednesday this month,
Oh, okay.
next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday?
Yeah.
And is, but,
It's at 7 p.m.
and you, like, I'm able to attend there?
Sure, but it's on Zoom.
Oh, okay.
So you have to go to the website and it'll give you the link to get onto Zoom.
Okay.
And you certainly may attend, absolutely.
Excellent. And is there any additional plans at this point to move forward with the traffic calming plan that was adopted a year ago, or I believe it was adopted by the borough as a framework, but has there been any movement or plans on the intersections that were included in that package?
You're actually, I think, asking a budget question.
That's probably a different meeting too.
It is budgetary, but it's principally, and the person who knows best is our engineer. So I'd like to him to address it.
Certainly, taking one at a time. So again, the traffic calming plan was adopted by the council last December. What's budgeted for this year, if again, we had the plan open, would be area 6C, which I think is 8th and Olive. So there were 3 improvements to the area of Olive Street that were targeted. And that one is an enhancement to that intersection to help slow down traffic or raise awareness. That's a concern of the boroughs. And the second one was, and there's money that was budgeted or is budgeted for next year to do those improvements. The second one is on on Jefferson Street. There was a series of improvements through Jefferson that were targeted in that plan. So we're trying to dose around the resources for the implementation of the traffic calming plan. So we looked at it, and when we looked at the priority list, we looked at actually your area of town, but also we had a lot of voices from Jefferson Street. So both of those areas we have budgeted for.
And then, could you remind me about the hold on the project? Because I believe it's temporary and not long-term, but have I forgotten something?
No, again, so we had a meeting 2 weeks ago. At that meeting, I expressed some concerns about some of the recommendations that are coming from the consultant McCormick Taylor. Some of those concerns, in my opinion, don't meet our project goals as far as what we really want to see some impact for the neighbors. My caution to the council was not to stop the project, was not to put it on hold, was not to dismiss it, was not to turn away grant money, but to look at, are we making the smartest moves which will cause the best impact for the community to reduce flooding, reduce stormwater, and improve the quality of life for the protection of property and the protection of life. That was my counsel. So anything else that was communicated that wasn't that, I know it's unfortunate if we don't have a smaller setting to really communicate those words, but my concern is there's a short-term plan to help relieve some flooding, which has been in place and approved by the council coming out of the summer. I met with that contractor today. Those implementations will be happening shortly. And then there's a much longer-term plan, which involves slowing down flow from the Upper Providence area, from the area on Providence Road. And in my mind, when I have reviewed all of that information, the overall effect of the results of stuff, they're not satisfactory to me. And I think that we could do some better bang for the buck. That was my expression to council. So it's not necessarily put on pause or on hold, it actually might speed it up. It might be, again, my concern there is to make sure that the residents and the property owners are being best served by the efforts, and we're not putting efforts in just simply to appease, I'll say bureaucratic policies at PennDOT that are not congruent with what we're trying to do, is protect the properties and the people downstream. So again, I hope that clarifies.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Manson. Do you plan to be present at the next Public Safety Committee meeting? This
Yes.
coming Wednesday?
Yeah.
So, Mr. Ackroyd, you'll have an opportunity to raise that issue again. Perhaps you get some other perspectives from the folks who are in attendance. Another thing you might wish to do, if you haven't done this already, is to contact our chief of police and let him know what your concern is. You'll find that our police department is very responsive to these concerns. It's not always the case that there is a magic wand that they can make things all well, but they are responsive, so that might be another step that you can consider taking.
Mr. President, if I may, I think that historically, in the past, and again, I think your family was there, we've had a series of outreach meetings just for the residents in that area. And in coordination with the manager, I think it's probably time to develop a little bit of a stronger communication plan. Because there are things I need to communicate to the council about resources and how to manage consultants. And then there are updates about projects that need to be communicated to the residents. And if information isn't clear, naturally it raises a lot of concern. But in order to make sure that we're facilitating, working with the manager to make sure that we're getting information, consistent information, accurate information into the hands of our residents. But again, we have not wavered from either commitment, the stormwater protection or the slowing down of traffic.
Thank you, Mr. Manson.
Appreciate the clarification. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming out tonight. Does anybody else wish to address council at this time? Please come to the microphone and tell us who you are, what's on your mind. Seeing that we don't have any other takers to the invitation, we'll move along then to the Borough Manager's Report. I understand there might be some visitors to your report this evening. So, Brittany Foreman, please take it away.
Thank you, Mr. President. I actually have two items. I'm going to do the business one first because it's really brief. And that is just on CDBG grants. I understand that the borough has typically gone after CDBG grants every year. You may recall that last year we submitted a grant but did not receive the grant, and that we have two current CDBG projects that we are in the process of implementing. So I believe we need to make some progress on those projects before we submit another CDBG grant. And otherwise, I don't think we will be competitive. So just wanted to put that out there so that you guys are aware of the administration's decision on that. Or recommendation on that, I should say. And secondly, I have the pleasure of bringing up someone, Linda Rooney from Dandelions Digital. Everyone may know, or at least everyone up here knows how amazing that firm is, but we have received yet another award for our communications team, our communications effort. And I would love for her to come up and share this award from the Pennsylvania State Association of Boroughs.
So I'm Linda Rooney. My daughter Molly and I work on Borough Communications. We are pleased to present this award from the Pennsylvania State Association of Boroughs. We received a first place award for our Mask Up Media campaign. It was a campaign at the height of the pandemic before vaccinations were available. And we hope that, it generated a lot of interest and we had a lot of people send in their pictures. It was a lot of fun. And we hope that it also helped people to keep their masks on in the business district. So I'm very pleased to present this award.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
We're running out of wall space, folks, but we'll take it. For those of you who do not know of Linda and Molly Rooney, I'm sure that many of you do know them. You just don't know it. They're the ones who helped craft our newsletter, our monthly newsletter, which I think has been a fabulous addition to the Borough. Really is a great way of communicating to the Borough in an entertaining and informative way. So they're the ones who are behind all of that stuff. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
That concludes my report.
Does any member of council have any questions for our manager at this time? Seeing that there are none, we'll move along to the engineer's report. Mr. Massett.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a few updates. As you can tell walking around town, there are a series of our corners that have been disturbed to improve them consistent with the ADA ramps that are moving forward with the road program. Those ramps will be installed, the concrete and the detectable warning surfaces will be applied, and then those affected streets will be milled and overlaid. So that work will happen within the next week or so. Again, the weather was great today, so there's a lot of construction activity all over town, including on South Jefferson and Lemon. There is a whole series of machines that are out there. There was a collapsed sewer main that has affected the system, has affected the aqua system, but it's really affected residents because the road has been closed and they are replacing or repairing a sewer main that's about 20 to 25 feet deep. It's a very deep main. So again, when I spoke to their foreman, I said, how quickly do we think we're going to get everything back in service here? And they still think they have another week or so of work to do. So again, there is a weird overlap because Aqua will now be paving that area that was originally scheduled for our paving contractor. So we can either redo some of those resources around town or look to get a credit from our paving contractor. So there's a little bit of blessing inside that one. Good news. Aqua was also out today on North Ridge. There's an issue again with the sewer mains. So a lot of activity all over town, a lot of construction either underway or in the works. Unless there's any other questions, my report.
Does any member of council have a question or comment for our engineer? Hearing none, we'll move along then to the solicitor's report. Mr. Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. No report, but I will ask for an executive session afterward to discuss a litigation matter.
Thank you. Does any member of council have a question for Mr. Scott at this time? Hearing none, move along then to the mayor's report.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you to everybody that showed up for the parade we had last week. It was nice having one after we took last year off. So thank you. We had a lot of interesting guests. It was great hearing 7 bands walk up and down State Street, all the cars that went up and down, and even a little bit of drama. Not going to get into that. So again, thank you everybody for coming. My police report, I believe, is on its way. So I'm going to get to something else. I want to bring up something that the theater came up with, and I think it's going to help us with economic development. The Media Theater has raised almost $1 million to try to get people to come to the shows and also to dine and to eat dinner and to shop. The money that they got is being used in the following ways. KYW Radio, Traffic, has 600,000 listeners. They've been on there several times every week. The billboard on I-95 has 500,000 drivers. I guess 500,000 drivers pass by weekly. Facebook, 50,000 people have been on it, I guess, and listening to these ads. Constant Contact, NBC, they're on Channel 10. They sold 200 sales tickets as the show was going on. I'm talking about Mamma Mia, that's the name of the show, by the way. Philadelphia Inquirer ads, 300,000. Newspapers are delivered throughout the area, and they're in a good spot in there. General numbers, they've been selling at least 150 tickets a day. Yesterday, they sold 500 tickets from all the ads that they have. And the reason we're doing that, it's been my idea and everybody else's idea, I'm just piggybacking on it, to have people, when they come here, just don't go to do one thing. Just don't go to a theater, dine, shop. Everybody's a team doing this. Linda, I'll give you a little bit more information on it. I don't know, have I given you any on this so far?
We did get something from the theater.
You did?
In the newsletter tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
So they're doing their best, and there's 8 weeks of shows, and we expect to get probably the biggest crowd we ever had for it. So probably as many as 15,000 people will be coming to see Mamma Mia. It opens this weekend. Okay, that's it. I'll get the rest of it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the compelling image. Does anyone have any questions for the mayor at this time? Hearing none, we'll move along to council committee reports. Those of you who are eagle-eyed have probably noticed that Councilwoman Sarah Dixon is not with us tonight. She is unable to make tonight's meeting. Her report will be given by Vice President Amy Johnson. We'll have the opportunity to hear Amy give 2 reports this evening. Let's move on first to Properties, Public Works, and Fire. Councilman Paul Robinson.
Good evening, everybody. I'll try to keep this short and sweet. As I do every month, I encourage our residents and even non-residents that would be interested in serving with our immediate fire company to stop by the firehouse, to volunteer your time as either a firefighter and or on the administrative side. They can always use your help. In the month of October, the company had 33 fire calls, 207 EMS calls, and 1 significant fire at the end of the month in Nether Providence Township. The fire company has started their annual fundraising, so be looking in the snail mail for some information with regards to contributions to the fire company. The last few years, we fell a little bit short on our goals, so I'm hoping this year that our residents and our businesses will step up and try to help support our fire company. With regards to actions on the agenda this evening, the first one is the approval of a change order for decorative lights, for LED lights mainly on State Street. You may have noticed that some of them are going on, going off, things of that nature randomly. It is a photo cell. I guess when you've been sitting on council as long as I have, you forget that they've been installed for heading on 20 years now. So actually the photo cells are going. So we're looking into changing all the lights to an LED. We haven't gotten to that yet, but we are asking for a change order of 4,000. I've got it right here. $4,044.53. So I'd make a motion that we approve the change order to install new photo cells in the lights for the cost of $4,044.53. That's in the form of a motion.
Is there a second on the motion?
A second.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing no call for discussion, all those in favor of approving the change order for decorative lights, the LED conversion project in the amount of $4,044.53, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
And the second item on my agenda is a lease agreement for 234 Brook Street. I will not go into extreme details, but the way it works is that it is the driveway to our Borough garage goes along the back of this individual's property. This individual now has a very difficult time getting to her home from the main entrance because she has a set of steps in which she needs to go up. This is an agreement that the borough, and I look at it as just a good neighbor, entering into another neighbor to allow this individual to have, in essence, one parking spot that would be dedicated to her on our private property to allow her access to her home. This is just for this individual. It's not going to be pertaining to the property, so when this individual no longer need it or require it, the agreement would cease. I really look at this as just being good neighbors. We have the opportunity, we have the ability, it's not going to hurt any of our functions at the highway garage, so it's just being a good neighbor. So I'd like to make a motion that we enter into the lease agreement for the property at 234 Brook Street.
So just point out it's a license,
License
not
agreement.
sorry.
All right, the motion is made. Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing no call for discussion, all those in favor of the borough entering into a license agreement with regard to 234 Brook Street as outlined by Councilman Robinson, please say aye.
Yes.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
That concludes my report.
Thank you. Does any member of council have a question or comment for Councilman Robinson? Hearing none, we'll move along then to Councilman Lisa Johnson, MBA, Historic, Public Safety, and Civil Service. Lisa?
Thank you. I have 3 mass gathering permits on my agenda for tonight. All 3 are for events that we've had for many years now. And one is actually to ratify the Veterans Day Parade since it already happened. So I make a motion to ratify the mass gathering permit for the Veterans Day Parade.
I'll second that.
Motion is made. It has been seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing no call for discussion, all those in favor of ratifying the mass gathering permit application for the 2021 Veterans Day Parade, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously. We're not rewriting history tonight, folks. It happened.
Thank you. The second mass gathering permit application is for the Media Farmers Market. This is the winter series of the Farmers Market, which is on the 1st and 3rd Sundays of each month from December through April.
Second.
Motion's been made. It has been seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing no call for discussion, all those who favor approving the mass gathering permit application for the Media Farmers Market for its winter month market, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. The third item is a mass gathering permit application for the New Year's Eve ball drop, which we did not have last year, so we're resurrecting that for this year. Of course, it's on Friday, December 31st. Setup time begins at 10 p.m. and the event will start at 11 and stop at 1 a.m. and breakdown will be finished by 1 a.m.
I'll second that.
Motion has been made and it has been seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing no call for discussion, all those in favor of approving the mass gathering permit application for this year's New Year's Eve ball drop, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. The last item on my agenda is a discussion around waiving the parking enforcement through the holiday season, which we've done for many, many years. This is at the garage on Olive Street to waive the parking enforcement between Thanksgiving and New Year's. Also, they would like to have a special one-day Small Business Saturday free parking throughout the borough to assist the small businesses in our town. So I'd like to make that in a form of a motion.
I'll second that.
Bob Solicitor, sorry. These masks, I mean, it's important that we wear these masks. I'm glad that we have them, but they do make talking a bit more of an adventure. Should we have 2 motions here or a single motion, do you think?
I'm sorry, the second part was about the
Borough-wide.
borough-wide for
Business
Small Business
district-wide.
For
Saturday,
just the one day.
just the one
I
day.
think you can do it in one motion,
Okay. All right, so we have one motion.
yeah.
Has it been seconded?
Yes.
Excellent. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I have a question. For the first one, the non-enforcement, isn't that an administrative decision? Why do we have to resolve to do that? Why, if they're just not going to enforce it, they're not going to...
Well, I think it's a financial, it has financial implications.
And you're also making a direction, don't do this, don't be ashamed, you know.
Okay, and do we also tell people that, we don't enforce it, but we also tell people they don't have to pay? Or we just leave it in the gray
I
area?
think they publicize that during the season.
Okay, good. Good.
It's always been somewhat of a, lack of better words, gift from the borough to the business authority to encourage people to come into town to park, recognizing that if they use the garage, there will be, no fee. Also, many of the employees will now use the parking garage, leaving places on State Street in which people would pay, but closer access to their businesses.
Yeah, I didn't have any problem with the actual stuff, I just wondered about that particular thing. Okay.
All right, we have a motion that has been seconded. There's been some discussion. I'll call the question. All those in favor of the Borough of Media waiving parking enforcement on the Olive Street garage from Thanksgiving through New Year's Day, plus waiving meter enforcement both street as well as garage for Small Business Saturday, which is November 27, 2021, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Does any member of council have any questions for Councilman Lisa Johnson at this time? Seeing that there are none, we'll move along to Vice President Amy Johnson, Fair Trade Farmers Market, Shade Tree, and the Environmental Advisory Council.
Thank you. I have nothing legislative this evening, but I just wanted to, as always, talk about the media farmers market. First, I'd like to thank council for approving the mass gathering permit to allow the market to continue year-round. I think the market has proven to be a positive addition to our town for over 10 years now, and I keep forgetting the exact amount of years, but it's definitely been around 10 or more. And so just a reminder that there's only a few markets left, only 2 more markets left of November, so there'll be one this Sunday. So it'll be a great opportunity for folks to gather up goodies for Thanksgiving. And then there'll be one more after that, and then it'll be, like you just voted on, the first and third Sunday of each month. The market sits on Edgemont Street between State and Front, and it runs from 10 to 1. So support your local farmers and producers, and come on out to the market. That concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you. Does anyone have, any member of council have any questions for Vice President Amy Johnson at this time? Seeing that there are none, we'll move on to Community Development in the Historical Architectural Review Board, which is my report. I have several items that are legislative. The first is not a legislative item. It is an announcement. Over the past couple of months, I've indicated that the county had some interest in presenting its thoughts about the orange street lots that on which the Jura parking lot used to sit. They, over the past couple of months, have indicated that they weren't quite ready yet. We now have confirmation that they will be ready for the next CDC meeting, which is this coming Tuesday, the 24th, at 4 p.m., which will be, we're still holding it next door, correct? We've held next door in the second floor large conference room. So if you have an interest in seeing what the county's thoughts are with regard to those properties, that would be a good time to come and hear what they have to say. I expect that they will have some visuals as well that will help enhance the discussion. So it'll be 4 p.m. on Tuesday if you're interested. The first legislative item is related to the adoption of our open space, parks, recreation, and bicycle routes plan. It's this thing here, 160 some odd pages, actually almost 180. The borough has been working on this for quite some time. I think it's measured in years. Part of that reflects the effects of COVID and the general slowing down, but a significant part of that reflects the intense interest that our residents and those who come to visit media have had in the issues that are presented by open space and parks and recreation opportunities. And so after that time, we now have been presented with a draft plan, and this is the final plan. So this is our opportunity to take a vote to adopt the plan, which doesn't mean that we are going to do everything in the plan. It is kind of like our comprehensive plan. But it is an excellent and strong plan, we believe, that will help guide us into the future. So tonight, I'm going to move that we adopt the open space plan as submitted.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion or questions on the motion?
I think the president made a very good point that, you know, it's a tool in the toolbox. It's a map that we can use, but it's not line by line. It has to be done or finished. But there's a lot of great things. I haven't finished reading all of it. I'm extremely impressed, and I do appreciate all the efforts that so many people put forth in it. But it's a good tool to have in the toolbox.
Anybody else?
I'd like to recognize certain members of council as well as residents, our administrative staff, our professional staff, our consultant and tool. They've been working on this for quite some time, sometimes under very difficult circumstances. If you want to know what herding cats is like, well, hold a Zoom meeting with nearly half 100 persons who are very interested in the topic. It can be a challenging task. But the members of council who have been working on, I think, the steering committee are Councilman Peter Williamson, Councilman Kevin Boyer, and Councilwoman Amy Johnson. They have been the steady hands on council behind this project, and we all owe you a debt of gratitude for the amount of work you've put into this over the many months, as well as the many residents whose thoughts, whose ideas are now embedded in this plan. One of the great things, as Councilman Williamson often points out, is the level of involvement of our residents in our community. That's one of the reasons why media is such a vibrant place. People really care about this place. So, I don't have any other comments. Anybody else have any comments before we take a vote on this?
Okay, all those in favor of adopting the open space plan for the borough media, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
The second of my legislative items, type 3, involves a subdivision land development application at 511 North Providence Road. For those of you who are not, for whom the address doesn't immediately bring to mind the property, this is the property that's immediately to the north of Holly House. So if you're driving up Providence Road towards Route 1, you pass the Holly House on your right-hand side. This is the property that's right next to it. It's a dental office called Dental Associates. It's a fairly large property with a fairly large number of parking spaces. And this is a development request that we've seen before because it had to go through the zoning first. And so we are a bit familiar with this project. Essentially, the dental office wishes to expand the number of operatories that it has on site, to double them. So we get a single-story addition on the south side of the building, plus a little fancier doorway in the front. This is, the proposal in all ways meets with our ordinance. There are two requested waivers. One waiver is to waive the requirement of preliminary/final. The other is to waive the amount of detail that needs to be shown on the map concerning surrounding features. And these are waivers that, in this type of case, we routinely grant. Our engineer has indicated that he does not object to either of those two waivers. Am I correct, Mr. Manson?
Sure.
And in this case, as I indicated before, where there is a plan before us that meets the requirement of a final plan, generally, it is your recommendation that we treat it as a final plan and not go through the two-step process of preliminary and then final. Am I correct on that?
That is true, yes.
Our planning commission discussed this. They are in favor of, they recommended that the borough approve the application. They're particularly pleased that there will be changes made to the internal traffic on site, so that rather than traffic exiting and entering on Providence Road, traffic will enter off of Providence Road and exit off of, I think it's Cherry Street. So that makes this a little bit less treacherous. The people who are there there to see their dentist. And also, even with the proposed additions, the stormwater management on this property will actually improve for what it is presently. So they were pleased that the development will achieve those goals. So I make a motion tonight that we approve the land development subdivision application for 511 North Providence Road, subject to addressing any concerns or issues that are specified in our engineer's review letter. And I make that in the form of a motion.
I will second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion or questions on the motion? All those in favor of approving the land development subdivision application for 511 North Providence Road, Dental Associates, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
The last item is one that we traditionally make with regret. Bill Payne has long been a wonderful neighbor, as well as someone who's been deeply involved in our community, not just media, but the surrounding communities. And he has been serving on the zoning hearing board for some time. His term expires at the end of next year, but he has decided, for his own reasons, that it is time for him to resign his position on the zoning hearing board. And I have the unfortunate task of making the motion that we, with regret, accept his resignation.
With regret, I will second that.
Motion's been made and seconded with regret. Any discussion or questions on the motion?
I got to serve on the planning commission with Bill Payne many years ago. He was always remarkable in his calmness. Even when he was, he didn't like a plan at all, he was always very calm in his criticism. And I always thought it was a great way. He was very effective in that way. And I'm sure you all know that he was also very active in the county. He was once co-director of the county planning department with John Pickett, and director of planning for the city of Chester. So he's had a long and illustrious career. It's too bad we're losing him.
He's forgotten more about planning than most of us know.
Yeah, great guy.
I see him every morning at 6:30 on the wall. All those in favor of accepting the resignation of William Payne from the zoning hearing board, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
Well, with every challenge comes an opportunity, and that means that we have an opening on the zoning hearing board. So So if you are interested in serving on our zoning hearing board, please submit your letter of interest. You may do so through our manager, and she will make sure that the letters of interest get to the persons, the right persons. But you got to be in it to win it. So if you're interested, please send your letter of interest. The letter of interest, by the way, does not need to be some elaborate type of a thing. It can be a one-page letter attached to a CV, or you can just describe your experiences that you believe are relevant. That is the end of my report.
Any questions for President Hall?
All right, then we'll move along then to Recreation and Board of Health. Councilman Kevin Boyer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just have a very brief report. I did speak with Jean Wortley from Board of Health, and we are trying to organize a meeting in the not too distant future, because as I've indicated, there are a lot of changes in Board of Health with the county operating its own health system now, or its own health facility. So there will be some changes, and we are going to meet in the near future to see what we can come up with in the borough. As far as rec is concerned, we are doing our Winter Wonderland this year on Saturday, December the 4th from 12 to 2. This is our first live event in quite some time since the pandemic. We're kind of encouraged now that children are eligible for vaccines. We're going to do this live. Santa will be there. There will be a small gift for children. There'll be cookies and hot chocolate. So if you're interested, that would be right here in the community center on Saturday, December 4th from 12 to 2. So come out if you want. Have a nice holiday experience. Speaking of holiday experiences, Rec is going to do its, this will be the second annual light judging contest. There is a form online. You can go to the Borough website and get the link. And it does help to sign up. That way we can put you on the list, and the members will at your house when we do the judging. I know that will be before Christmas. I don't know the date exactly. I'll announce that at next meeting. But if you are planning to decorate your house, you can be eligible. So go to the website and find the sheet and sign up. Lastly, I would like to invite to the December legislative meeting Sean Sujan, who is from Iraq and resigned after many years, and I'd like to have him come to a future council meeting to honor him for service, and hopefully we can do that at the December legislative. He put in a lot of time. Sean was vital in organizing a lot of trips, like the Spirit of Philadelphia. He was kind of the unofficial photographer for Iraq, so we were going to miss him, and he put in a lot of years, so I'd like to make sure that we honor all the stuff that he's done for us, so we'll do that in December. And that is my report.
Thank you. Does any member of council have any questions for Councilman Boyer at this time? Seeing that there are no questions, we'll move along to Finance and Library. That is Councilman Peter Williamson. Peter?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll just stick to the finances tonight, since we'll be passing the preliminary budget. And it's a slightly different year, so I want to explain everything to you. Starting with where we are, well, first of all, why don't we pay some bills? Sorry about that part. Okay, every month we ratify the bills that we've already paid. So last year we drew from the general fund $975,382.12. From the Recreation Fund, $949.97, and from the Capital Fund, $211,892.49. I move ratification of those bills.
Second?
Motion has been made and has been seconded. Is there any discussion concerning the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of ratifying payment of the bills from October 2021, and the amounts specified by Councilman Williamson, please say aye.
Yes.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
Okay, so let me talk about where we are first with this year's budget. I admire this borough staff last year for putting together the budget they did. It was, quite frankly, we were in a chaotic economic situation. But it's come through really quite well. As of the end of October, we're $217,000 in the black, which is good. And this is after having paid the significant payment we had to make in the fall of the year to cap up our pensions for police and non-uniform employees. We haven't had to use any of our savings, and we haven't had to use the first half of the federal funding that Media Borough will receive out of the American Rescue Plan, which is about $297,000. So it looks like we've had very strong revenue from our various earned income taxes. So I think that will continue strong. So I think that we'll end up near to our budget goals for 2021. So that's good. But last 2 weeks ago at the workshop, council was exposed to the complete proposed budget at that time. It changed slightly for next year. And what it showed was a modest increase in those earned income taxes that we've referred to before, which is a significant portion of our revenue, and the use of about half of the federal money received, $297,000, toward our revenue sources. Otherwise, the revenue increases were modest. The bigger changes were in the expense side of the budget. Some of the smaller things were our recycling costs are going up, and our costs for IT and some of our parking technology has gone up a bit. But one of the larger increases was the change in the fire company's request to us. Any of you that have been following these Borough Council meetings, which is probably very few, but or read the newspaper about Pennsylvania and other states that use volunteer fire companies know that changes in American society basically have caused it to be more and more difficult to have a complement of firefighters, for media especially in the daytime. So the fire company has asked us to contribute toward the cost of hiring 3 full-time employees so we can be sure that our community is safe day in and day out. And council has agreed with them on that point. So all that told, the operating budget as exposed to council last at the workshop was about $331,000 in deficit. In other words, we had not adjusted our revenues yet to reflect those increased costs. That's the budget I'm going to ask everyone to pass tonight. It does not have to be in balance tonight. We'll make the final adjustments to the budget for the final. This is a preliminary budget we're passing tonight. We'll make the small adjustments necessary in the expenses and the more significant change in the revenue for the final budget to be presented next month. Now, the Finance Committee met 2 days ago. Oh, wait. There's another budget that's very significant, not just the operating budget, that's the capital budget. That's where we spend money on things that last a long time, like trucks and parks and sewers and stormwater and things like that. The capital budget for this year is about $2 million less than last year. It's about $4.3 million. If we do every single thing proposed, we will use about $1.4 million of our savings, which we have if we need to use them. In a typical year, our aspirations exceed our ability to implement, and we don't quite pull off the capital budget. I think we'll get closer this year, but note too that the capital budget to be in balance not only uses potential savings, but the other half of our federal money, the other $297,000, which we intend to put towards stormwater projects. Some of the biggest expenses in that capital budget are for sidewalks, the implementation of our long time proposed CMAC project on increasing sidewalk linkages in Media, the wayfaring project, which is essentially a redo of our signage in town, some stormwater projects, and a line item for implementation of the open space plan. So that's where we were 2 weeks ago. The Finance Committee meeting 2 days ago, we talked about where we were at that point. Staff had pushed some numbers around a little bit, not anything significant, but made sure that the fire company request was accurate and some other things were accurate. So we ended up at, instead of $331,000 in deficit, at $336,000 in deficit, only a change of $5,000. So, how to make up that difference? So, the Finance Committee discussed this at length, and what we decided to do is just make a simple change to our general real estate millage. And that would cause it to go from 1.41 mils, which it is at this year, to 1.84 mils. So, that's, what does it mean? Well, for a typical residential property owner in media, it's going to be about $130 more a year in your media borough tax bill, which is about maybe 10% of your total real estate tax bill. The rest of it is the school district and the county. But it's about $10 more a month for you to live in media. But we had very little choice, and it's the first time we've done this in 15 years. So that was the recommendation of the Finance Committee unanimously. And that's the first time you all have heard this as a council, so I want you to all consider that. You don't have to do this time. I mean, you're not passing this millage change tonight. But we will be recommending it to close the budget for the final next month. Okay, and that's how we're recommending it. So if you have any strong objections to that, please voice them tonight. Okay. I think I'm ready to ask for passage of the 2022 preliminary general and capital. And how many budgets are there?
Four.
Right. Okay. General, capital, liquid fuels, and recreation budgets as you have in your packets.
Motion's been made. Is there a second on the motion?
I will second.
Has been seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I have some ideas, but that can be discussed in 2022.
I just want to thank Councilman Peter Williamson and Councilwoman Tracy Johnson for all their hard work on this budget.
All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor of adopting the preliminary 2022 general capital, liquid fuels, and recreation budgets as outlined by Councilman Williamson, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
So there is a requirement to advertise the availability, and I forget where we are on that. Is that is going to follow now that this is?
Yeah, so
Okay.
we'll advertise it and also post it,
All right,
and it'll be physically available.
And staff will take care of that?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, and I'd like to thank my colleague on the Finance Committee too. I think we make a pretty good team, complimentary as we are. So that concludes my report. Thank you.
And Brian Towson-Gloss, who is the borough treasurer.
Well, yeah, he's just not here to thank, but because he doesn't have to come to these meetings as in his requirements, but he does come to all the Finance Committee meetings. Those of you in the general public may not know we have a treasurer who's appointed by us, and he helps the Finance Committee meet with policy decisions, and he also helps the borough staff with transparency, with the way money flows through the organization.
All right, are there any questions for Councilman Williamson at this time? Hearing that there are none, we'll move along to Sarah Dixon's part of the report. As I mentioned earlier, Councilman Dixon is not able to join us this evening, and in her stead, we will have Vice President Amy Johnson. She will do the report on personnel, public relations, and historical archives with an assist, I believe, from our manager.
Yes, I will be looking to you, Brittany. There's two legislative items on Councilwoman Dixon's agenda. The first is a salary increase to bring in line with other performing similar duties for our meter technician. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, maybe.
Sure.
if it's helpful. So we are recommending salary increase for Robert Anderson, who's our meter technician. He is the one who collects all of our funds through the meters and the kiosks, and also maintains and fixes all of our meters and kiosks as well, and does complaint resolution. And we are asking to increase it to, one, bring it closer along with the other labor positions that are in the borough right now, and also bring it more in line with what some of the other communities, this position in other communities that have very large parking meter operations.
Thanks. So I'll make that in the form of a motion.
I'll second that.
Motion is made, it has been seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of increasing the salary for a meter technician, Robert Anderson, please say aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye. Those opposed, please say aye. The motion passes unanimously.
Second, it looks like we're looking to hire Kenneth Vetter as a substitute part-time crossing guard. Anything else, anything to add on that?
Just that the chief had said it is an immediate need to fill, and it is also a substitute position, so it's not always working part-time, but they have that need.
So I'll make that in the form of a motion.
I'll second.
Motion is made, it has been seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I think public safety would say, I think the chief is always looking for additional substitutes. It's not the most fun job, but it's needed to get the little kids across the street. So if anybody's interested in a couple hours a day, talk to the chief, and I'm sure that he'll find a hat and a badge for you and a big stop sign.
All right, any other comments? I think that the level of fun in the job really depends on how much you enjoy dealing with young kids at 8:30 in the morning. All right, so, yeah, we do. So all those in favor of hiring Kenneth Vetter as a substitute part-time crossing guard, please say aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
And I'll just assume that this is the end of my report.
I think that it is. Any questions for Vice President Amy Johnson in her capacity as a substitute for Councilwoman Sarah Dixon? Seeing that there are none, we have our second opportunity to field questions or comments from the public. We'll turn first to Karen Rapino. Karen, have we received any email questions or comments?
We have not.
All right. Anyone who's present here may come to the microphone, tell us your name, where you live, what's on your mind.
Terry Rumsey, 342 West 4th Street here in the Borough. I wanted to say I had the honor of serving on the advisory committee for the Open Space Parks Recreation and Bicycle Routes Plan. And we did work for nearly 2 years, and as President Hall said, COVID was part of that factor, but there were consistent meetings that happened and very long and good discussions on many evenings. And I think President Hall appropriately acknowledged the good work that Councilman Williamson and Boyer and Councilwoman Amy Johnson did, and Ann Toole, our consultant, and also Karen Taussig-Lutz did an awesome job coordinating the committee. But I would just like to, I know that President Hall acknowledged the residents. I would like to read the names of the people who actually participated. And the first group is folks who were representatives of borough authorities and organizations. And it was Allie Britton from the Media Business Authority, Eleanor DiMarino Lennon, who is the superintendent of the Rose Tree Media School District, Katie Dooley from the Recreation Board, Lawrence Johnson and Jack Coleman'sberger from the Media Youth Center, Brendan O'Riordan from the Environmental Advisory Council, Stephanie Scher from the Media Arts Council, and James Tangora represented the Planning Commission. And then the resident volunteers were Stephanie Gaborio, David Gale, Michael Jordan, Joe Leach, Sandy Leoporis, Jennifer Malcoon, Lars Suffer, Daniel White, and Chris Wilczynski. They all worked very hard, and all those, including the council people, know that they made a great contribution. I would also like to speak tonight as the co-chair of Keep Media Green, which is a local all-volunteer organization working to defend open space and the natural environment here in the borough, and say that we enthusiastically endorse this plan. We think it's a great plan, and that's the entire plan, but specifically the top priority that was recognized by the authors of the plan, which is the acquisition and preservation of open space, the remaining 23 acres that the plan identified in the borough, and the call to invest $3 to $10 million over the next 3 years in the acquisition and preservation of open space. We want to say that Keep Media Green really looks forward to collaborating with council, including the 3 new folks here tonight who are going to be joining, and we want to help educate the community about the plan, and we want to help mobilize the community behind you so we can implement this plan. So thank you to the borough, and thanks to all the people who worked hard on developing the open space plan.
Thank you.
Robin Lasserson, 342 West 4th Street. I'm also co-chair of Keep Media Green, and I echo Terry's enthusiasm for the plan and wholeheartedly agree with President Hall's characterization that it's an excellent and strong plan. And just to get a little bit more specific about that top recommendation, as you know, the plan also calls for prioritizing the preservation of the largest parcels of open space in town, which we all also understand to be the Brumos Lake Country Club property, which helps comprise the 45-acre green belt on the western edge of town that is one truly valuable ecological system. And so specifically, as a top priority, we look forward to working with council to identify which of the several preservation tools that are mentioned in the plan would be most appropriate for preserving that very special and ecologically significant parcel. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to address council at this time? Before I ask for a motion to adjourn, I think that we should mention the events a couple of weekends ago at the Heritage Park, in Brumel Park. Those of us who were present know that it was one of those wonderful occasions where the community came together, learned quite a bit more about our community, met folks that perhaps we didn't quite know quite so well, and wonderful things to eat. Last but not least, I suppose. But there are a few persons that I think were mentioned, at least on the borough side, in terms of helping make this a reality. Karen Topsy-Glocks, whose name we've heard already tonight. She was instrumental in moving this project along, helping to manage this project in such a way that, although it took a number of years, nonetheless, we now have a jewel in our midst. We had 3 members of council who dealt with the day-to-day, or at least the week-to-week. Councilman Williamson, Councilman Boyer, Vice President Amy Johnson. They worked with a neighborhood group for several years to make this a reality. One takeaway from this, folks, is that it takes time to do these things and to do them right. But if you do stick to it, you get results such as this. I know that this will come as an embarrassment to him, but nonetheless, I am going to single out Peter Williamson in this regard. He was what I will call the driving force on council behind Memorial Park. Heritage Park, I apologize. If it weren't for him kind of chivying us along, letting us know the importance of this, impressing upon us what a wonderful opportunity this was to add to the amenities that we have in the borough. We wouldn't have had that wonderful event that we had 2 weekends ago. So if you haven't had the opportunity to visit the park, please do so. It's a lovely place. Now been dedicated among the roster of our parks, and it's a great place to visit.
Wait a minute, I have to say something.
Of course.
Because in order to make that park happen, the first thing that had to happen was the Bean family had to be willing to sell it to the borough. They had all kinds of offers from other people. They decided to invest in the future of their community, just like, as we learned at the Heritage Park event, all their neighbors had for generations, right? So thank the Bean family before you thank anybody, because it wouldn't have been possible without them.
I will say, I've been walking by there, it's part of my new route with the dog, and every night this week, or close to dusk, there's been a dodgeball game happening with the local kids of the neighborhood, and then I walked by tonight, there were no kids, but the ball was there. So the ball is just, I think, now a new staple of that park, and it brings me a lot of joy.
Okay, folks. First of all, I hope for a wonderful and warm Thanksgiving holiday. It is the start of our holiday season. Keep in mind that your dollars, for your holiday dollars, that they are best used locally. So think about shopping and dining at media first. We hope to see you again in a few weeks' time. Do I hear a motion to
I just
adjourn?
remind everybody, Sunday is the Santa Stroll. We're not doing a parade this year because of COVID, but the stroll was a tremendous success last year, so that'll be held this Sunday, so make sure you get your friends and neighbors to. I don't know the exact time, we can check the website, it's usually at dusk.
Next Sunday.
Next Sunday.
Sunday
after Thanksgiving. Oh, that's right, I apologize, I'm thinking it's already. The next Sunday, the 28th, I apologize.
At 4 p.m.
So, come out, invite your friends, it'll be a good time.
I move adjournment.
Yes.
So,
No need for a second. All in favor, please say aye to adjourn to executive session. Aye. Any opposed? Good night, folks. We'll see you next time.